Have you told him?
It wasn't the right time.
When is the auspicious moment to inform your husband that you were a big city party girl?
Nothing happened.
The Blaine detective agency reported that a man gave you money.
With the fatherly advice to use it for train fare and go home, which I did.
Then your version is that he took pity rather than advantage of your small-town innocence.
It's true.
I believe you. The question is, will Stephen? Don't forget, the Blaine report is only part of your problem. You also stand accused of borrowing my will and showing it to Leslie Harrington.
You know why he threatened to give the report to Stephen.
And a very potent threat, considering your husband's obsessive jealousy. So, the defense enters a plea of not guilty by reason of blackmail, to which the prosecution immediately objects that you can't have it both ways.
Stop it, you're toying with me.
Stephen will argue that either the report is true and that you were Leslie Harrington's victim, or that it isn't. Minago, that you were his accomplice. That you took my will to Leslie Harrington voluntarily and used the excuse of blackmail only because you were caught.
Stephen knows how I feel about Leslie Harrington.
Of course. You hate him. And why do you hate him? Because he destroyed your marriage to Rodney. And what are the provisions of my will? Come, Betty. You're not going to pretend that you didn't read it.
I read the will.
Oh? Of course you did. You knew that it had to concern you, for better or worse. So, here we have a document that makes you my principal heir, provided that you remarry Rodney, and that appoints Leslie Harrington administrator of my estate. If you reveal all this to Stephen, what would he think? You can't. But on the other hand, you can't pretend to him any more than you could pretend to me that you had that will in your possession and didn't read it.
I can, and I did.
Oh?
Mr. Peyton, I'm not without talent. I'm a brilliant liar, very experienced. I learned at the feet of the master. Yourself.
Thank you.
You've declared war, but I'm in no mood to wave a flag of surrender. You've got a fight on your hands. I'm going to convince you to change your will once more. Change it back to where it was. Back to common sense.
You're fighting me. Admirable. Ah, sit down, Stephen. Join us.
I have a request to make. I'd like you to stop using my wife as an errand boy between yourself and Leslie Harrington.
Why, of course, if it distresses you, my dear. But you might have come to me directly, rather than to your husband. Very well. I promise never to do it again. Satisfied, my boy?
Thank you. I'll be upstairs.
Betty, I'm surprised that Stephen didn't mention his source of information, Lee Webber. Stephen's usually only too ready to accuse Lee Webber of every petty crime under the sun and demand that I fire him instantly. Can't believe he'd accept the slander of his own wife in meek silence, unless he believed that Lee Webber wasn't lying.
All right, break up my marriage. Go to Stephen and tell him everything. Tell him about your will, tell him about Harrington, tell him all of it.
Betty, no. Stephen despises me, and properly so. If I go to him, he'll stiffen his spine. He'll hold your marriage together just to spite me. You see, it's up to you. It's your decision.
That was abrupt.
Yes, it was.
Well, I usually get a reassuring look or a kiss or something when you rush upstairs like that.
Betty, don't try too hard.
What do you mean?
Well, whenever people make a big thing out of keeping up appearances, it always looks like they're hiding something behind them. I said looks.
You heard your grandfather?
Backed up your story. You went to Harrington on an errand for him. Now let's leave it at that, okay?
I assumed you were going to make your grandfather get rid of Lee Webber.
I can't make my grandfather do anything. Weber is up to something. Stirring up trouble, something. Maybe it's best to keep him around, huh?
To keep an eye on him.
In a way.
That was your grandfather's excuse for hiring him. And in your own words, not a very good one.
Why are you so anxious to see Lee Weber get fired?
If I had a lawyer, he'd probably call that a leading question.
Betty, you're not on trial.
No. Is that your real reason for not doing anything about Lee Weber, because you believe him?
Come in.
You're wanted on the phone, Mr. Cord. It's Mrs. Carson.
Oh, thank you, ma'am.
Elliot, the blazes kept you anyway? The scintillating conversation at the Peyton household?
No, the conversation at the district attorney's house about your case.
How long is it going to take to get me out of here?
You'll be out tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning?
Elliot, you've been booked. You've got to be held for arraignment when court convenes in the morning, at which time the judge will set bail. You'll be released, not before.
You mean to tell me that a man has to go through all this for a charge of simple assault and battery, a misdemeanor?
Look, Elliot, you want to sit down for this?
No, I don't want to sit down.
You're not being charged on a simple misdemeanor. Jack Chandler signed papers charging you on 2 counts of aggravated assault, both felonies.
How? I pass up a chance to charge Chandler with a misdemeanor, and yet he can charge me with a felony in the same fight?
His injuries are more extensive than yours. Extensive injuries are grounds for charging assault with intent to do great bodily harm.
That's a lie. He threw the first punch. He started the whole thing.
The second count was assault with a deadly weapon.
That's a lie. I never even saw a deadly weapon.
Okay. Tell me exactly what happened.
I tried to talk to the man. He struck me, and I defended myself, period.
Did anyone witness this?
Not as far as I know. Oh, come on, Stephen. Do you seriously think if this ridiculous business ever got as far as a jury, that the jury would ever side with a man like Chandler?
Look, Elliot, a trial is like a horse race. No one knows how it's really going to come out. Shadows from the past have a way of turning into substance. Witnesses come forward. Evidence crops up.
What evidence does Chandler have?
Well, the hospital record shows that wood splinters were removed from your hands. A bright young detective hustled over and recovered them. There were splinters of wood that were dark in color, matching the wood from the wharf. And there were light splinters, salt water bleached, matching an oar lying on the wharf. An oar is a deadly weapon.
That's right, he did. He picked up an oar. Took a swipe at me with it. I took it away from him. Wait a minute. Then I threatened to kill him with it. I forgot about that.
Well, the prosecution won't.
Well, wait a minute. He started the whole thing, Stephen. Haven't I got a right to defend myself?
Elliot, even if we're able to prove that he started it, you were not necessarily entitled to put him in the hospital. Now, there may have been a point in the fight when you started winning, when Chandler could no longer harm you. If you went on from that point and beat him to a pulp, you just could be convicted of felonious assault, punishable from 1 to 12 years in the state prison. Do you want to sit down now? Look, Elliot, I don't mean to be an alarmist. I just want you to understand that this is not a problem we can solve by snapping our fingers. Now tell me what really happened.
I went looking for Chandler.
For what purpose?
I don't know, maybe to kill him.
Elliot, you swing from one extreme to another.
I sure do. First of all, I promised my father that if I turn up any links between Chandler and Allison, I'll turn them directly over to the police. Then when I turn up the link, what do? I go looking for Chandler with blood in my eye.
Isn't it reasonable to say you went to question him?
Is it? Didn't I know he wouldn't open up? What did I really want, anyway, besides beating him into the ground? And maybe under it. Connie warned me about it.
Of what?
About my temper. Something bugs me, I want to rip it to pieces. I just end up hurting Connie. I blow my top, and then she has to pay for it.
Elliot, you're not the only man who's ever hurt his wife. You say you went from your house with blood in your eye.
That's right.
Did anyone see this?
No. Well, yeah, Connie.
My wife can't be called to testify. Anyone else?
No.
Did Connie tell anyone about this?
No. No, wait a minute. She told Rodney Harrington about it.
Told him exactly what?
Well, that I was going to see Chandler, and she wanted him to stop me.
And what, if anything, did he do about it?
Well, he tried. He did stop me for a while.
So Rodney was a witness to your intent to assault Chandler.
Right.
Fine. Well, there's no need to push the panic button. I'll work on the angle that Chandler attacked you when you... Oh, get some sleep, Elliot. I'll see you at the Raymond.
Stephen, one favor.
Sure.
Is there anything that can be done about getting me out of here tonight?
There isn't.
I don't want to spend the night in jail.
I'm sorry, Elliot, no way.
You won't even try?
Look, Elliot, be reasonable. You're not some blushing innocent who doesn't know what the inside of a jail looks like. You've had the experience before.
That's right, I have. I've had 18 years of it. I don't think I can stand another night.
Well, you'll have to stand it. There's nothing that'll get you out of here until morning unless the building burns down. Can you understand that?
Okay. Okay. All right, let's go.
The continuing story of Peyton Place.
I raised one child without her ever knowing her father. I could do it again if I had to. But I also remember how it was for Alice.
If I see you where you don't belong again, I'm going to take you apart, piece by piece. And then I'm going to shove those pieces down your master's throat.
Nothing on earth is going to keep me from doing what I'm going to do to Mr. and Mrs. Elliot Carson.